Many years ago, in the busy streets of Lagos, there lived a woman called Tolu Daniels, who had a sharp sense of style. She was one of those mothers who always looked too polished to be stressed. Yet she was stressed all the time. Every morning before the first cockerel even crowed in the neighborhood, she would already be dressed in her fitted blazer, Ankara skirt, and that famous coral lipstick that made her customers call her Madam Boss Lady, because she could negotiate hard and smile sweetly at the same time. Tolu owned a boutique called Style Queen, and although people thought she was living her best life, the truth was that she was working too hard for too long, trying to be everything at once: mother, provider, entrepreneur, and friend, but mostly provider. Her husband had left when their daughter Amara was only 5 years old, and from that day, Tolu made up her mind that Amara would never lack anything in life, even if she had to work 20 hours a day to buy it. Amara was a beautiful teenage girl with bright eyes that looked like they were always plotting something. She loved to complain loudly such that the neighbors would peep through their curtains and wonder, "Madam Tolu, what is wrong with that girl again?" As a result, every time Tolu wanted peace, she would rush to the phone shop or boutique to buy her something. Phones, wigs, shoes, bags, anything to make the complaining stop. Unfortunately, Amara learned a secret power, which was that her complaints could open a treasure chest of gifts. It started innocently. One evening, Tolu returned from the boutique exhausted and sweaty, only to hear Amara shouting because her classmate Chidinma had posted a new iPhone on Instagram. Tolu sighed, dropped her handbag, and instead of sitting the child down or trying to teach her contentment, she said, "Stop crying, Amara. Mommy will get you the latest iPhone this weekend. You hear?" And just like that, silence returned. The next Saturday, true to her word, Tolu appeared with a brand new iPhone 14 that looked like it had fallen straight from heaven. The neighbors clapped for her and said, "Madam Tolu, you are really trying for this, your daughter-o." And she smiled proudly, unaware that she was slowly digging a small emotional grave with every gift she bought. As the months rolled by, it became a pattern. Whenever Amara complained, she received a gift. When she refused to eat her food, she got takeout from expensive restaurants. When she refused to study, she got a new MacBook. And when she threw tantrums about her hair, Tolu would quickly tell the hairstylist, "Please just give her that Brazilian wig. Please, before she starts embarrassing me." People said Amara was spoiled, but Tolu called it love. When Amara entered secondary school at Graceland International, the story became even more dramatic. On her first day, Tolu took pictures and posted everywhere writing, "My princess starts SS1 today. God has been faithful." But by the second week, she had already missed 3 parent-teacher meetings and 1 school cultural day. She was too busy at the boutique chasing profit. She would tell her friend Joy, "Let me just work hard now so that Amara will have a better life." And Joy would say, "My sister, you are right-o." But one afternoon when Tolu forgot to attend the school debate where Amara came third, the girl refused to talk to her mother for 2 whole days. Now Tolu, in her usual way, did not apologize with words. She apologized with money. She came home the next night holding a golden shopping bag. Inside was a brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max. Amara's eyes widened, and just like that, all the anger vanished. She hugged her mother and said, "You're the best mom in the world." Tolu smiled proudly, unaware that she had just replaced attention with technology. From that day onward, Amara's love language officially became, "Buy me something." If Tolu shouted at her, she would pout and say, "You don't love me anymore." And Tolu, feeling guilty, would buy her something again. One evening, their neighbor, Mama Bola, who always had time to sit outside fanning herself, told her, "Tolu, you are raising an influencer, not a daughter." They both laughed, even though they knew it was the truth. At night, Tolu would sit on her bed, scrolling through her bank statements of all the things she had bought. Phones, wigs, clothes, shoes, designer bags. And she would smile and say, At least my daughter never lacks anything. But deep down she was feeling lonely. The house was full of things, yet it was empty of warmth. Sometimes she would knock on Amara's door just to talk only, to find the girl busy on TikTok, recording videos, and ignoring her mother completely. One Saturday morning, Tolu's friend Joy visited with her 2 daughters. They played outside, braiding each other's hair, laughing and sharing stories, while Amara sat in her room with her ring light on, posing for Instagram and frowning at anyone who disturbed her content creation. Joy shook her head and said, "This your daughter doesn't like real people, ho." Tolu smiled proudly and said, "She's just focused on her brand. That's all." Joy sighed and replied, "She's not focused. Tolu, she's disconnected." But Tolu didn't take it seriously. She believed all would be well as long as her daughter had the best of everything. Later that evening, while watching television, Tolu's favorite advertisement came on. It was a phone company promising happiness with every upgrade. She laughed and said, "See? Even adverts agree with me." That night, as she switched off the light, she smiled to herself. "I may not be the perfect mother, but my daughter will never forget how much I gave her." The next morning, Amara was eating toast and scrolling through Instagram, when all of a sudden she threw her phone on the couch just because the camera lagged. She shouted, "Mom, I need the iPhone 16. This one is useless." And Tolu just nodded and said, "Okay, baby, after I sell that batch of clothes." By the time Amara turned 16, she had already mastered the art of emotional manipulation. She was no longer that little girl who cried just to get a toy. She had upgraded. Now she negotiated like a businesswoman and demanded like a celebrity. Her mother, Tolu, had no idea that she had raised a mini version of herself, only with more entitlement, less gratitude, and a master's degree in emotional blackmail. At this point, Tolu's house looked wealthy. Even when her bank account was begging for mercy, there was always a new phone charger, a new power bank, or a new selfie ring light, all bought for peace of mind. Every corner of Amara's room sparkled with gadgets and beauty products. Yet the girl was never satisfied. She wanted more. She always wanted more. And Amara was now in her final year at Graceland Secondary School, an expensive private school where even the security guards wore ironed uniforms. Amara was stunning with long weaves and a smile that could make boys do her homework. The boys liked her, the girls envied her, and the teachers hesitated to correct her because they feared her mother's sharp tongue. Tolu often bragged about her daughter's beauty. "My Amara is so fine she can marry into any wealthy family. Mark my words," she would say proudly, and her friend Joy would roll her eyes and mutter, "Let's just hope she can cook rice first." But Tolu didn't mind. She believed love was shown through gifts, not discipline. One Saturday morning, Amara sat cross-legged on her bed, surrounded by old phones she didn't even use anymore. She was scrolling through Twitter and suddenly shouted, "Mom! Everybody in school now has the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Me, I'm still using 15 like a village girl." Tolu, who was preparing pepper soup in the kitchen, sighed and shouted back, "Amara, your phone is fine, I beg. Don't join that social media pressure nonsense." But Amara didn't stop. She came out dramatically holding her phone like evidence in court and said, "So you want them to mock your only daughter, Abby? Mom, is that how to show love? Even Sandra, whose mother sells akara by the roadside, has an iPhone 16. Tolu tried to stay firm, but her daughter's words pierced through her heart like a hot knife through butter. She remembered how she once promised Amara that she would never lack anything, and before she could blink twice, she found herself saying, "Okay, after I finish this month's sales, I will see what I can do." Amara smiled sweetly and said, "You're the best mom ever." She gave her a quick kiss before running back to her room to continue scrolling through her old phone, which suddenly wasn't so old anymore. That same week, Tolu attended a parent-teacher meeting. She wore her finest Ankara gown and sat proudly near the front, smiling at every parent like a senator's wife. But halfway through the meeting, The principal cleared his throat and said, "Mrs. Daniels, can we speak privately after this?" Tolu's heart skipped. After the meeting, she followed him to his office, and he said carefully, "Ma, please don't misunderstand me. Your daughter Amara is very intelligent, but she's becoming obsessed with material things. She measures her worth by what others have, not by what she achieves. She even posted a video mocking students who use small phones." Tolu laughed loudly and said, "Sir, she's just confident now." But the principal wasn't smiling. Confidence is when you love yourself. Pride is when you love things more than people. Tolu waved it off and left his office, muttering, "These teachers just like to complain. They should be happy I pay full school fees on time." However, the next month, life decided to serve an early lesson. Amara started skipping classes regularly. She would sneak out during lunch break to film TikTok videos at nearby cafes. Her grades began dropping, but her follower count kept rising. She now had over 15,000 followers who loved her luxury lifestyle content. But none of them knew that behind the filtered photos and designer captions was a girl who felt empty inside. One afternoon, Amara's class teacher, Mrs. Adeyemi, called Tolu with concern in her voice. "Mrs. Daniels, Amara failed her mathematics test completely. She didn't even attempt half the questions. When I asked her why, she said she was busy editing videos." Tolu felt embarrassed but defended her daughter. "Ma, don't worry. I will talk to her. She's just going through a phase." But when she confronted Amara that evening, the girl simply shrugged and said, "Mom, school is not everything. I'm building my brand. I can make money from social media." Tolu wanted to argue, but she was too tired. Instead, she just sighed and went to her room. 2 weeks later, something worse happened. One evening, Tolu received a shocking call from the school. "Mrs. Daniels, your daughter was caught trying to sell her old phones and wigs to junior students during school hours." Tolu almost dropped her phone. She rushed to the school only to find Amara sitting in the disciplinary office, legs crossed, scrolling through Instagram as if she was in a waiting room. Not in trouble. Tolu shouted, "Amara, what did you do?" Amara blinked innocently. "Mom, it's not a big deal now. I just wanted money for a photo shoot with that popular photographer. You don't give me enough allowance." Tolu was shaking. "So you sold your things behind my back?" Amara stood up casually. "Mom, you're shouting as if I stole something. It's my phone. Besides, you always say you buy everything for me." The teacher sitting there tried to hide her smile. Tolu's mouth hung open. She didn't know whether to cry or to scream sense into her daughter. When they got home, Tolu locked the door and tried to talk to her daughter calmly. "Amara, listen to me. You can't live life this way. Life is not all about money and social media. You must learn contentment." But Amara rolled her eyes and said, "Mom, I beg, stop. You yourself love material things more than anybody. You can't even go 1 week without buying something new for the boutique. So don't start preaching now." That statement hit Tolu like thunder. She froze, realizing her daughter had just mirrored her. Everything Amara said was true. She had raised her child to love material things more than real connections. Tolu sat on her bed that night with tears in her eyes. Maybe I failed her. Maybe I taught her to measure love by the size of the shopping bag and not the warmth of a conversation. But before she could finish that thought, Amara opened her door, peeped in, and said with a sweet grin, "Mom, I'm sorry for shouting earlier, but can I still get that iPhone 16? Tolu just stared at her, speechless. Then she burst into laughter. Not because it was funny, but because it was too painful to cry again. She said, "Amara, one day you will understand that love is not data. You can't download connection." Amara didn't get the point. She just smiled, hugged her mother quickly and said, "Okay, Mom, but can we still check slot tomorrow?" And Tolu simply nodded because saying no had become harder than saying yes. That night, the two of them slept under the same roof, but in completely different worlds. One woman was searching for love while the other was chasing likes on Instagram. Many months passed and time began to expose everything that was built on material gifts. Amara was now 17 and preparing for her final exams. But she barely studied anymore. Her mother, Tolu, was no longer the shining Madam Boss lady that people once admired at the boutique. Business had become slow, and her savings had started shrinking. The economy was getting harder, and customers were complaining about high prices. Yet Amara's demands never stopped. At first, Tolu tried to keep up appearances. She didn't want her daughter to know how bad things had become financially. Every time Amara asked for money for a new wig or shoes, she would smile and say, "Don't worry, baby. I will sort it out." But after each transfer, she would sit in her shop and cry, knowing she just sent her transport money for the week. As for Amara, she was now completely absorbed in her online life. She had over 25,000 followers now, and didn't notice the worry lines appearing on her mother's face. She was too busy attending influencer events, going to product launches, and updating her Instagram story every hour. When Tolu called and asked, "Amara, can we spend Sunday together? Just us?" she would reply, "Mom, I have a content shoot with a brand. Maybe next Sunday." But that next Sunday kept moving like a broken promise. One Tuesday evening, Tolu collapsed in the boutique while arranging new stock. Her neighbor who sold drinks next door rushed in and found her lying on the floor, breathing heavily. They took her to the hospital, and the doctor said it was exhaustion and high blood pressure. "Madam, you need to rest. Your body is breaking down from stress." When they called Amara to inform her that her mother was in the hospital, she said, "Okay, I'm coming." But she didn't arrive until 6 hours later because she was at a birthday party filming content. When she finally walked into the hospital ward, she was still dressed in party clothes, holding her phone. Tolu looked at her daughter with tired eyes and said nothing. Amara kissed her forehead quickly and said, "Mom, sorry-o. I was stuck in traffic." But Tolu knew there was no traffic at that time. She just smiled weakly and said, "It's okay. You're here now." Amara stayed for 30 minutes, mostly on her phone replying to comments before saying, "Mom, let me go home and get some things for you. I'll be back." But she didn't come back that night, or the next morning. She got distracted editing videos and forgot about her mother lying alone in that hospital bed. When Tolu was finally discharged 3 days later, she came home to find the house empty. Amara had left a note saying she went to Chidinma's house to work on a collaboration project. Tolu sat on the couch and cried silently. She realized that even a health scare couldn't bring her daughter close. She had lost her to the digital world. That week, Tolu decided to try something different. She cooked Amara's favorite meal, jollof rice with fried plantain, and set the table beautifully. When Amara came home that evening, Tolu said, "Come, let's eat together. No phones. Just us." Amara looked uncomfortable, but she agreed. They sat down, and for the first few minutes, Amara kept reaching for her phone. Tolu gently pushed it away and said, "Please, just talk to me. Tell me about your day." Amara sighed and started talking, but her mind was clearly somewhere else. Halfway through dinner, her phone buzzed with notifications. She grabbed it immediately and said, "Mom, this brand is offering me a deal. Let me just reply quickly." Tolu watched as her daughter typed furiously, completely forgetting about the food and the conversation. After that evening, Tolu stopped trying. She realized she had created a monster she couldn't control anymore. One evening, Amara announced casually, "Mom, I'm going to spend the weekend at Chidinma's house. We're filming a collaboration." Tolu hesitated. She wanted to say no. She wanted to tell her daughter that she missed her, that they hadn't had a real conversation in months. But instead, she just smiled weakly and said, "Okay, be careful." That Friday evening, Amara packed her bags, kissed her mother on the cheek quickly, and left. She didn't notice that her mother stood at the window watching her until she disappeared down the street. That night, Tolu sat alone in the house, surrounded by expensive furniture but drowning in loneliness. She tried calling Joy, but even her friend was tired of hearing the same complaints. She scrolled through Amara's Instagram and saw her daughter smiling brightly in every photo. But she knew those smiles didn't reach home. The weekend passed slowly. On Sunday evening, Tolu expected Amara to return, but she didn't. She sent a text that said, "Mom, Chidinma's dad is taking us to a nice restaurant. I'll come back tomorrow." Tolu stared at the message and felt something break inside her. She replied, "Okay, enjoy yourself." But she wasn't okay. Monday came and Amara still didn't return. Tuesday passed. Then Wednesday. By Thursday, Tolu was worried sick. She called Amara multiple times, but the calls went straight to voicemail. She called Chidinma's mother, who said, "Auntie, the girls are not here, oh. I thought Amara was at your house." Panic seized Tolu's chest. She immediately started calling Amara's friends, checking hospitals, driving around the neighborhood. No one had seen her. She even went to the school, but they hadn't seen her either. Tolu's mind was racing with terrible thoughts. Did someone kidnap her? Was she hurt somewhere? Did she run away? She couldn't eat or sleep. She just kept calling and praying. That evening, while sitting in her car crying and praying, her phone buzzed. It was a notification from Instagram. Someone had tagged her in a video. With shaking hands, she clicked on it. Her heart stopped. It was Amara. She was sitting on a dark street corner, tears streaming down her face, doing a live video. Her makeup was ruined and her voice was breaking. Thousands of people were watching. "I'm tired," Amara was saying on the video, her voice trembling. "Everyone thinks I'm living my best life, but I'm not. I feel so empty. My mom buys me everything, but she's never really there. I have 25,000 followers, but I have nobody. I just wanted her to notice me. Not my phone, me." The comments were flooding in. Some people were mocking her. Others were sending prayers. But Tolu didn't see any of that. All she saw was her daughter breaking down in front of strangers because she couldn't talk to her own mother. Tolu's hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. She immediately shared the video location and started driving like a madwoman through Lagos traffic. She didn't care about the honking cars or the angry drivers. She just needed to find her daughter. 40 minutes later, she arrived at Bar Beach. The place was dark and windy. She ran along the shore calling Amara's name desperately. Then she saw her, sitting alone near the water, her phone shattered beside her, tears mixing with the ocean breeze. Tolu ran toward her, breathing heavily, and fell to her knees in the sand. "Amara," she whispered. Amara looked up, her eyes red and swollen. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Amara said quietly, her voice barely audible over the waves, "You give me everything, Mom, except you." Those words broke Tolu completely. She pulled her daughter into her arms and they both cried. Not the kind of crying that comes with anger, but the kind that comes from deep pain and realization. Tolu held her daughter tightly and said, "I'm so sorry, baby. I thought I was showing you love, but I was just buying your silence. I'm sorry." They sat there on the beach for hours, talking properly for the first time in years. Amara confessed how lonely she felt, how she only posted happy photos to cover the emptiness inside, how she had been staying with different friends for days because she felt invisible at home, how she had been crying herself to sleep every night, despite all the likes and comments. And Tolu confessed how she thought money could replace time, how she was so afraid of failing as a mother that she failed anyway. When they finally stood to leave, Tolu took Amara's shattered phone and threw it into the ocean. Amara gasped, "Mom, what are you doing?" Tolu smiled through her tears and said, "We're starting fresh. No more hiding behind screens. No more fake smiles. Just us." That night they drove home in silence, but it was a different kind of silence. Not the uncomfortable distance they had lived with for years, but a peaceful quiet that comes after a storm. The next morning, Tolu did something she hadn't done in years. She closed the boutique for an entire week. Her friends called asking if she was okay. She simply replied, "I'm choosing my daughter." That week, they did simple things together. They cooked jollof rice and burned it twice before getting it right. They watched old Nollywood movies and laughed at the terrible acting. They went to the market together and Amara learned how to bargain for tomatoes. They sat on the balcony at night talking about life, dreams, and fears, without any phones to distract them. One afternoon, they decided to visit Mama Bola, their neighbor who had always shown them kindness. When they arrived, Mama Bola was outside washing clothes and singing old church songs. She looked up surprised to see them together. "Ah, Tolu and Amara. This is a pleasant surprise-o." They sat with her, and for the first time Amara listened to stories about the old days when people didn't have phones, but still found joy. Mama Bola told them about how she raised 7 children without buying them expensive things, but they all turned out well because she gave them her time. Amara listened quietly, and by the end of the visit, tears were in her eyes. As they walked home, she held her mother's hand and said, "Mom, I wasted so much time chasing things that don't matter." Tolu squeezed her hand and replied, "We both did, but we're learning now." Slowly, Amara began to smile again, not the fake influencer smile, but a real one that came from her heart. She deleted most of her social media apps and kept only one account where she posted once a week. Her followers dropped from 25,000 to 8,000, but she didn't care anymore. One evening, Tolu sat Amara down and said, "I need to tell you something. Business has been very hard. I can't buy you expensive things like before, and I'm sorry if you feel disappointed." Amara looked at her mother for a long moment. Then she reached across and held her hand. "Mom, I don't need those things. I just needed you." Tears filled Tolu's eyes. For the first time, she realized that she had been chasing the wrong definitions of success. She thought being a good mother meant giving her daughter the world, but all her daughter ever wanted was her presence. Months passed, and their relationship completely transformed. Amara focused on her studies, and her grades improved dramatically. She even started volunteering at a local orphanage on weekends, teaching the children how to read. The first time she went there, she was shocked to see children who had nothing but were happier than she had ever been with all her gadgets. One little boy named Amika hugged her and said, "Sister, you are so kind." That simple hug touched her heart more than any Instagram like ever did. She came home that evening and told her mother, "Mom, those children have nothing but they smile so much. I had everything, and I was so miserable." Tolu hugged her daughter and said, "That's because happiness doesn't come from things, my dear. It comes from purpose and love." One Saturday, while they were cleaning the house together, Amara said, "Mom, thank you." Tolu paused from sweeping. "For what?" Amara smiled. "For finally showing up. Not with gifts, but with yourself." Tolu hugged her daughter tightly, and in that moment she understood that love is not found in shopping bags or bank transfers. It's found in shared moments, honest conversations, and simply being present. The boutique eventually picked up again, but Tolu learned to balance work and family. She stopped trying to prove anything to anyone. She stopped measuring her worth as a mother by how much she could buy. Instead, she measured it by how much she could give of herself. During this time, something beautiful happened. Amara started writing about her experience. She created a blog where she shared her journey from social media obsession to finding real happiness. Her honest posts began touching people's hearts. Parents reached out to her thanking her for opening their eyes. Young girls messaged her saying she inspired them to put down their phones and connect with their families. One of her posts went viral, not because of luxury or fake perfection, but because of raw truth. In it, she wrote, "I had 25,000 followers, but I was following nobody into real life. I had the latest phones, but no real conversations. I had designer bags, but my heart was empty. Don't make my mistake. Put down your phone and pick up your life." Tolu read that post and cried tears of joy. Her daughter had finally found her voice, not through material things, but through meaningful purpose. 1 year later, on Amara's 18th birthday, instead of throwing an expensive party, they went back to that same beach where everything changed. They sat on the sand watching the sunset, and Amara said, "Mom, do you remember when you threw my phone in the ocean?" Tolu laughed. "How can I forget? You looked at me like I was crazy." Amara smiled. "That was the best gift you ever gave me." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Amara took out her phone and said, "Mom, let's take a picture." Tolu hesitated. "Are you going to post it?" Amara shook her head. "No, this one is just for us." They took the photo together, smiling naturally. No filters, no luxury background, no designer clothes. Just two women who had finally learned that happiness isn't bought. It's built. As they walked back to the car, Amara turned to her mother and said, "I love you, Mom. Not because of what you give me, but because of who you are." Tolu's eyes filled with tears as she replied, "And I love you, my daughter, more than any money can show." That evening, they drove home through the busy streets of Lagos. The city lights flickered around them, and life continued its usual chaos. But inside that car, there was peace, there was love, there was finally understanding. Tolu had learned that no gadget, no luxury, no online fame can replace the power of presence and true connection between a parent and child. And Amara had learned that real happiness doesn't come from what you own, but from who you share your life with. Sometimes the greatest gift a mother can give is not found in a shopping mall. It's found in simply showing up, listening, and loving without conditions. And sometimes the greatest lesson a child can learn is that love is not measured by what someone buys you, but by how they make you feel seen, heard, and valued. Many weeks later, Amara graduated from secondary school with honors. During her valedictorian speech, she shocked everyone by saying, "I want to thank my mother, not for the things she bought me, but for the day she stopped buying and started being present. That was the day I truly became her daughter." The entire hall erupted in applause. Tolu sat in the audience crying with pride and joy. After the ceremony, they celebrated simply at home, with jollof rice, fried chicken, and old friends. No expensive party, no social media posts, just genuine laughter and love. And as they sat together that night, both of them knew they had finally found what they had been searching for all along. Not perfection, not material wealth, but connection, understanding, and the kind of love that doesn't need to be bought because it's freely given from the heart. Thank you for reading this story. Kindly share your thoughts about this story with me in the comments section. What lessons did you learn from this story? Share the story with your loved ones and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now. Until I bring another story your way. Bye.